Hello, this is the news on NTA International. I am Minna Daniels. Now the headlines. More groups call for caution ahead of proposed national protests, urges youths to be patient with government. The Senate moves to shore up Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation's capital base from 50 to 500 billion naira. Plus, Niger's junta gathered thousands of people in Niamey to celebrate first anniversary of coup. The United States has held open and productive discussions between China's Foreign Minister and Secretary of State Anthony Blinken in Laos on Saturday, in which Blinken raised concerns over Belgium's provocative actions around Taiwan. Francis Odojo reports that Blinken's stop in Laos is part of a multi-nation Asia visit aimed at reinforcing regional ties in the face of Belgium's growing assertiveness in the South China Sea and its deepening ties with Moscow.
The talks on the sidelines of a foreign ministers' meeting of the Association of Southeast Asia Nations, ASEAN, lasted for 1 hour and 20 minutes, according to a senior State Department official. Blinken raised concerns by U.S. about provocative actions by China, including a simulated blockade of Taiwan following the May inauguration of its new president, NTAi. China claims the democratic island as its territory and slammed Li's inauguration speech as confession of independence. However, China's foreign ministry was yet to release a statement on the meeting. Shortly before the meeting, Blinken hit out at Beijing's escalatory and unlawful actions in the South China Sea, where China and the Philippines are locked in a territorial dispute.
As we take stock of this affirmative agenda, we also have to work together to address challenges to this shared vision, whether it's Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine, the DPRK's nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs. We are pleased to take note of the successful resupply today, the second Thomas Shoal, which is the product of an agreement reached between the Philippines and China. We applaud that and hope and expect to see that it continues going forward.
Beijing claims the waterway through which trillions of dollars of trade passes annually, almost in its entirety, despite an international court ruling which said its assertion has no legal basis. Francis Odojo, NTA News.
And hundreds of thousands are expected to be affected by delays this weekend as 3 out of 10 French high-speed trains were cancelled on Saturday on routes hit by a series of coordinated arson attacks. French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal said security forces continue to search for saboteurs responsible after rail networks were paralyzed ahead of the opening of the Olympic Games. Again, Francis Odojo has details.
The National Rail Company, SNCF, said services which run on Saturday will be delayed for up to 2 hours on major lines running in and out of Paris, while a quarter of Eurostar services will also be cancelled. Official reports say services would return to normal by Monday morning. The rail company SNCF estimated that about 250,000 passengers were affected on Friday, while a government transport official said as many as 800,000 could be impacted in over 3 days. Travelers have therefore been advised to postpone their journeys, with disruption expected to last until Monday. Among Eurostar customers affected on Friday was Prime Minister Ken Starmer, who had planned to travel to the Games opening ceremony via train but was forced to fly instead. He told the media, and I quote, "I am not going to pretend it was not frustrating because it was, and for very many people it made travel so much harder." End of quote. In the meantime, the Paris 2024 Olympics officially kicked off on Friday, about 206 nations and 10,714 athletes will compete across 32 sports in 329 events in the Games, which ends on August 11. Francis Udojo, NTA News.
Niger's junta gathered thousands of people in the capital Niamey to celebrate the first anniversary of its coup. The crowd, dressed in clothes bearing photos of regime members, chanted the name of junta chief Abdurrahmane Tiani. A stadium hosting the anniversary event was under high security with armored vehicles around the venue. Tiani arrived to the beats of a traditional drum to greet attendees but did not address the crowd. Prime Minister Ali Mohammed Lamin Zain said never in the country's recent history has an event received such great popular support. After taking power, the junta expelled French forces last year, while the departure of U.S. troops is expected to be finalized in August. Niger has also distanced itself from some West African nations, severing ties with the regional bloc ECOWAS. While the junta celebrated its 1 year in power, which has been declared a public holiday, ousted President Mohamed Bazoum remains detained in his official residence. The Economic Community of West African States has donated 7,000 metric tons of cereals to the federal government of Nigeria as part of its support to food security in the country. President of the ECOWAS Commission, who was represented at the handing over of the food stock at the ECOWAS Regional Food Security Reserve in Kano, pledges support to other member states. Mohamed Rabiu Ali reports.
Nearly 50 million people across the West Africa region are currently facing economic hardship and food shortage. This intervention by the ECOWAS Commission to Nigeria therefore comes handy to provide succor to the most vulnerable groups. The 7,000 metric tons include millet, sorghum, and maize. Out of these, 4,976 tons is part of ECOWAS technical rotation and 2,000 metric tons donated by the ECOWAS Commission.
Nigeria has the most population in our region, and we have most population who are displaced and affected for terrorism and vaccines in our region. This is why we have a lot of population in Nigeria who need this kind of alimentation and of foods.
This intervention clearly demonstrates the commitment of the organization to be impacting positively on the citizens of the community.
And I assure you, due diligence will be followed to ensure that this donation will get to the targeted vulnerable Nigerians.
Other interventions are underway for displaced persons, flood victims, and critical health needs, among other areas. From Kano, Muhammad Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
And coffee lovers in South Africa, among the largest consumers of the beverage on the continent, are significantly requesting for more of the beverage during the cold winter months. Prices have shot up globally over the last 2 years because of adverse weather in major producing areas. While food inflation in South Africa has stalled, hot drinks like coffee are still seeing hefty increases.
Robusta and higher-end Arabica beans have fetched record prices on the global market as major producers Vietnam and Brazil battle extreme weather. It has made the popular brew more expensive in South Africa.
We're a net importer of coffee, and obviously developments on the international market influence what happens on the domestic market in terms, because that's where we obtain the raw material. We saw, ground coffee, 30% up year on year. And that's an indication of the tough trading environment on the coffee side.
Sihle Magubani, owner of Sihle's Brew, has found ways around the rising cost of beans. For him, chronic power shortages at home over the last few years have dealt a bigger blow to his small roastery.
it had a huge impact in our business, where we used to have 5 coffee shops. And then all of these coffee shops that during the load shedding, so that it was high fuel purchases. So we were not making anything. So our overheads were higher, so it affected our business. So we decided to close all of those due to the load shedding.
Determined not to let his dream of building a coffee company sink completely, Magubani focused on developing his uniquely flavored blends. He now supplies over 20 tons of coffee a month to local retailers.
The South African coffee lovers, they love any quality coffee. They will literally purchase whatever, regardless of how much the cost or anything. So they will still choose the high-end product.
Immediately when we see prices going above 60%, 70% year on year, that's when you start you're seeing volumes starting to decelerate, and the consumers feeling the pinch.
Coffee prices could remain elevated for some time as Brazil and Vietnam try to restore their crops, but consumers in the continent's biggest coffee drinking market are not likely to give up on their caffeine fix just yet, despite having to dig deeper into their pockets.
The European Union, in collaboration with NTA and the National Information Technology Development Agency, NTAi, have developed a participatory policy implementation framework for Nigeria. At the presentation of the framework in Abuja, Director General NTAi, Kashifu Abdullahi, says it is to help subnationals apply the country's digital policies to create more employment opportunities and grow the economy. Joseph Otsen reports that a 2-day policy dialogue held to sensitize stakeholders on the framework.
It is one thing to draft a policy, but it is another to contextualize it to serve the needed beneficiaries.
We have been able to fund over 40 startups and over 40 researchers. To that tune alone, we have spent over $700,000.
Thank you, sir. Here, Nigeria's digital participatory policy implementation framework is presented to policy actors in ministries, departments, and agencies at the federal and state levels, as well as the private sector, for acquaintance.
We are implementing that framework together with the ecosystem with an ambitious target of achieving 95% digital literacy level by 2030.
There is an enrichment of local relevance by integrating indigenous knowledge and local perspectives, ensuring policies are contextually relevant to the people they serve.
That when stakeholders are actively involved in the implementation of policies, those policies become sustainable and relevant across diverse contexts.
Nigeria has in recent times come up with policies like the Nigeria Startup Act, and now this framework towards creating employment opportunities and boosting its economy through the digital space.
The biggest platforms in Nigeria at this point in time are not owned by Nigerians. It would be great for us to be able to build more domestic platforms that are owned by Nigerians, that are monetizing in Nigeria, that help us to grow our ecosystem.
World Bank Development Report 2021 shows more than 50% of Nigeria's over 200 million population do not have digital skills. In Abuja, Joseph Otsen, NTA News.
The Senate is amending the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporations Act with provision to raise the capital base from 50 to 500 billion naira. At a public hearing on the bill by the Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions, stakeholders say the increase will boost customer confidence in the banking sector by improving security of investments.
Do not relent in giving Nigerians impactful legislation that will improve the banking, insurance and financial sector of our economy.
We are here to listen and work together towards legislative outcomes that will foster economic growth and financial stability and consumer protection.
The NDIC considers this public hearing as a golden opportunity for the corporation
to voice its strong support for this bill that seeks to, among others, strengthen the regulatory framework, enhance the independence and autonomy of the corporation in line with international best practice.
The hearing also elicited positive response from participants on the plan to make more stringent punishment on individuals and corporate organizations for issuing due checks in transactions. Meanwhile, reform to Nigeria's insurance industry to enhance federal government's efforts of stabilizing the economy is on course through a legislative framework. As the growth rate in the industry continues an upward trajectory, the Nigerian Insurance Reform Bill seeks to strengthen the sector, and stakeholders believe the move will foster a robust, secure, and modern financial landscape.
Is yearning for $1 trillion economy. We cannot sit down and be watching other small African countries contributing more to their GDP as far as the insurance industry is concerned.
For the Nigerian insurance company to remain significant or to retain significant shares of the oil and gas insurance portfolio, they must have and maintain a reasonable level of capital, since the assets are typically denominated in USD and insured in USD.
This is the news on NTA International. Time now for a short break. Thanks for joining us again. The Director General, Voice of Nigeria VON, Jibrin Babandaje, has urged Nigerian youths to dissociate themselves from the proposed nationwide protests. The VON DG made the appeal in Abuja at the public presentation of the book From Zero to Entrepreneur, written by Oluwadamilare Ifeanyi Adefio Chukwunonso Nwabweze, was there.
Loaded with practical experiences and actionable strategies, the 3-chapter 95-page book captured ways of turning ideas into successful business entities. The Director General, Voice of Nigeria, Jibrin Babandaje, leverages the young age of the author as well as guests at the presentation to make a passionate appeal to Nigerian youths to channel their energy and God-given talents towards making meaningful contributions to the growth and development of the country, rather than joining those planning the nationwide protests.
All the countries that have gone that way, you can see where they are now. Sometimes the protests will be started there with good intention, but before you know it is hijacked, and then it becomes something that is out of control. So we don't want Nigerian to go that way.
The author speaks on the motive behind the book.
I've written this book to inspire and enlighten and motivate young and aspiring entrepreneurs in the creative economy.
What I'm asking for you is, this country belongs to you, this economy belongs to you. Participate actively in the economy, and it is you that will grow the economy.
Let's be innovative. Sit in the corner of your house and think of what you can do differently from others that will contribute positively, not just positive, very positively to the society.
With more than 10 years experience in the entertainment and creative industry, providing job opportunities for young Nigerians, Oluwadamilare Ifeanyi Adefio and many here are optimistic that the book will be an inspiration and guide to prospective entrepreneurs in Nigeria, especially the youths. Chukwunonso Nwabweze, NTA News.
The Women Initiative for Family Economy has joined its voice for the call to organizers of the planned nationwide protest to shelve their plans in the interest of peace. At a press briefing in Abuja, the group and national protests said national protests at this juncture could lead us down a similar path of the NSAS protests of 2020, still fresh in a collective memory of disruption and hardship. It said protests can cripple our economy, disrupt essential services, and exacerbate the very issues they aim to address. It appealed for time for the economic reforms government is implementing to stabilize and grow our economy. Adding that the government has shown commitment to engaging in open and constructive dialogue with all stakeholders.
The most vulnerable among us, daily wage earners,
small business owners, students and patients in hospital are often the ones to bear the brunt of such action. However, the call for protest underscores a critical point. The economic hardship that many Nigerians are facing, the government is actually aware of these challenges and is committed to providing effective and sustainable solutions.
The youth wing of the Christian Association of Nigeria (CAN) has dissociated the association from any form of nationwide protest. Arising from a second quarter National Executive Council meeting, the Christian youth leaders reaffirmed their support for the efforts being made by the present administration to address the challenges facing the nation. National President of the Youth Wing, who presented the communique of the meeting, commended the federal government for the smooth takeoff of the Student Loan Fund, the immediate passage of the new minimum wage into law, and granting of autonomy to the local government to fast-track grassroots development.
The NEC wishes to state in clear terms that it disassociates itself from any form of forthcoming protest organized to demonstrate hardship or bad governance by unknown individuals across the country. We are hopeful that the step taken so far by the government, with constant support and cooperation of all Nigerians, we shall get through these difficulties. And we'll continue to pray for the government and the people of Nigeria, and that is what we owe our people. We will continue to engage and dialogue with the government to ensure that all their needs are met.
On security, the Executive Council appealed to security agencies to immediately check the activities of criminal elements and put an end to terrorism in the Northeast. Project Green Health, an agricultural nutrition and climate change initiative of Sahel Consulting, has been launched in Abuja. The project, aimed at promoting basic agricultural and green environment education in schools across the federal capital and Abuja, took off at the junior secondary school, Jabi. Kevin Ehuanaye reports that promoters of the initiative took the students through methods in gardening, crop planting and environmental behaviors that create awareness on impact of climate change and how their own activities can help environment green.
Inspire the younger generation with the advent of climate change, trying to educate students on what climate change is and how it affects the environment. We also want to be able to build them as champions of change, to be able to create impact, to contribute their own quota in the fight against the climate change.
I'm happy with the coming of greener projects. At least they will encourage our students. They will continue from where, as you know, sometimes when we here talk to them every day, they need somebody from outside to put to make them to be more encouraged.
The benefit of this plant is that so that we can get more fruits and more medicine from the local plants we plant today. And then the environment looks more beautiful when we add the plants and the beautiful flowers to it.
The Agriculture and Nutrition Initiative is part of the Sahel Consulting Community's social responsibility endeavor, expected to be replicated in other schools within the FCT. President Bola Tinubu extends his condolences to the family of the late Senator Ifeanyi Ubah. The deceased was a renowned businessman and politician. He was a senator representing Anambra South Senatorial District at the National Assembly. President Tinubu commiserates with the friends and colleagues of the late senator, the National Assembly, and the government and people of Anambra State over this sad loss. The president prays for the repose of the soul of the departed lawmaker, as well as for strength and comfort to his family. And similarly, the Nigerian Senate mourns the demise of Senator Ifeanyi Ubah, who until his death represents Anambra South Senatorial District in the 10th Senate. In a statement, Chairman Senate Committee on Media and Publicity, Yemi Adaramodu, says the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, expresses deep shock at the passing of Senator Ubah, describing him as a dedicated and passionate legislator whose contributions have left indelible mark on the nation, as his commitment to serve his constituents is exemplary. The Deputy President of the Senate, Barrow Jibrin, the Southern Senators Forum, and other members of the 10th Senate extend sympathies to Senator Ubah's family, his constituents, as well as the government and people of Anambra State. And now a quick look at the weather prospect for Sunday in Nigeria and other parts of the globe. And this is where we end the news. Thanks for watching. I'm Mina Daniels.